Welcome everyone to Enlightened World Network. We are here for divine relationship recovery. And I have my special guest, Ruth Anderson. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. You know, Ruth, I was thinking that you do so many awesome things and people see you on Enlightened World Network all the time, but they don't always really hear a lot about you and who you are and what you've done. And so I decided to read your bio today.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Because I want people to know you the same way that I bring on other guests, because you're so brilliant and wonderful at raising up other people. I want to do that for you too.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Dr. Ruth Anderson is a lifelong student, teacher, and international best-selling award-winning author. Retired after a satisfying and worthwhile career in special education and public school administration, Ruth embraced her second calling, that of a herald, for messages from Archangel Michael and the Spiritual Divinity. After becoming a Reverend of the Church of Inner Light, she was given a ministry to witness and participate in the healing of souls with and without bodies in the ethereal realm called Open Clinic. Ruth is the author of One Love, Divine Healing at Open Clinic, Walking with Spirit, Divine Illuminations on Life, Death and Beyond, and Listening to Light, Love Letters from Walking with Spirit. Ruth is also a book publisher of anthologies. She is passionate about sharing energetic concepts and her experiences with the spiritual divinity. And Ruth is the founder of Enlightened World, online support for light workers to increase their professional visibility so that they can assist with bringing much needed light into our world. And of course, you can find her on enlightenedworld.online. And I think it's so important for people to know that you're just not a face on Enlightened World Network. There's so much more to you. We don't really get to talk about your books and all the things that you bring forth and that you're doing constantly to help other people. So, can you take a minute to how the Enlightened World was conceived within you and how you shared that, how that came forth?
Enlightened World is 100% Archangel Michael's passion. And he found in me somebody that was willing to bring it into the world. And I think all of the life skills that I've learned up to this point, working in school district administration and being a people person, he has used all of those skills to bring together Enlightened World and Enlightened World Network. So it is really just been listening to Archangel Michael and allowing all of the parts to come forward as they're ready to come forward. It's been a fascinating journey over the last 3 years of watching the website come together, the YouTube channel, and Enlightened World Network. We have over 1,000 videos on YouTube at this point. We've got so many shows that are going up every week. It is just so fun and so amazing to be part of it. And it just keeps rolling in. There's other parts that I'm watching come in, and every day is a different day. I honestly never know what the day is going to hold with Enlightened World, because the doors just keep opening and new shows are coming in, new opportunities are coming in, and things that we're being called to do, Deb, keep rolling in. So for instance, this last week, our dear friend and EWN speaker, Camille Desalm, passed. And we all heard the call to support her in whatever way we could. So we had a prayer circle for her on Sunday, and then she passed on Monday. Well, then we've been asked to be there for Camille's sister, and we've been asked to have a show about death on Sunday. So we honestly just never know what's coming around the corner, and it's just a matter of being open to wherever we're being led.
Well, and thank you for being open, because all the things that you bring forth are so important, and it really helps other people understand what it's like to listen and be divinely guided to do things that we're being supported to help other people in whatever way that's supposed to be happening.
Right. Well, and thank you to Deb and to Terry Angel, because without their support and without them steadfastly standing right next to me and bringing these things into the world, I don't know that I have the fortitude, Deb, to do all this work on my own. I really don't. And Archangel Michael and Christ put you guys right next to me at the time that it was really needed to bring Enlightened World and Enlightened World Network forward. So it's a triad, really important triad.
It certainly is, and I'm grateful for how this all came together, because it is a sister relationship, totally in spirit and on the ground. It is a sister relationship, and all of what that means. It's just so amazing to be part of this creation with you both. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And this is something that we're not alone, and we don't have to do things alone, and we can't do things alone.
Right.
So we have all this spiritual help, and then we have this way of being able to support each other and accomplish whatever we were all brought to be here to accomplish. So it's wonderful.
Right. Well, and the other interesting thing is you can't do it before it's supposed to happen. I always think that's the most amazing thing that I will get, and I know you do too. I get a vision of something. I have no idea if it's going to happen that week or in 2 years. And you will know if you try to make something happen and it just isn't happening, that it's not time.
Right. Right. You are so right, because I have tried several times to push ahead with the vision that I see.
Right.
And saying, well, how do I move this forward? And this whole lesson has been, you don't move it forward, we move it forward for you. We bring it to you. We serve it to you on a silver platter, that you don't have to do all of this work. And that in itself is a lot to take in and learn how to modify the way that you've always gone through life.
That is so true. I remember the day that I was in meditation and I saw myself on the tarmac of an airport, on a tarmac, and I'm saying, a little to the left, a little to the left. And I could tell it was Enlightened World being brought in. And with all of the steps I had followed along the way, it was still being brought in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really a beautiful metaphor. And that's what, this show is all about. This show is about learning about your relationship with God, yourself, and others. And God's been picking the topics and the talking points for us every week. And all of that, if you go back each week and listen to each show, there's all these beautiful lessons in each one of them that accumulate to really having a divine understanding that needs to surpass your earthly understanding. And today's is no different, so we can head right into that, okay? And it's called Into Me You Shall Come Eternally as One. You will come into me because there is no separation. We are eternally in a dance of oneness that never changes. Your experience here has you believe you are alone or separate in some way, but I assure you, it can never be the case. Ruth, that is a message that I'm giving over and over and over again. And I think it's because even though I can intellectually understand that and hold that at times, there are still other times where I'm looking for reassurance that Spirit's still there, or that that I need validation in some way inside, because there's a part of me that forgets in a moment, that forgets that no, it's all one. You are one. There is no separation. You can't take it apart. You cannot divide God, you and yourself from each other, because you're of one substance.
You know, Deb, can you talk about what Camille said in the voicemail message to us? Before Camille Desom passed, gosh, I don't know, in April, I think she had sent a voicemail to you for you, Terry and I, and it was about the vastness that is us in the world. How can you talk about that a little bit? She talked about how you can't separate part of the vastness because it is all just vast.
Right. It is such a wonderful understanding of that we are such an expansiveness of creation, and that it can't be separated, it can't be harmed, you can't be something other than you or not, that it is unchangeable, that as spirit we are unchangeable. And we keep getting off track in that belief system, because we're always being we always have contrasts coming at us, telling us something else is happening other than that. And her understanding was just so beautiful, of understanding how there is no end, there is no beginning, really, of spirit. You can't measure it. It is everything. And that is the message that I keep receiving from God. And this is a way that we learn. We hear things over and over and over again. We have to hear the same things over and over and over and over again in different ways, or in the same way, because we're constantly challenged to not stay with that thought process. We're challenged all the time to think, oh no, I see this happening, or this is what I believe about myself, or this is what I see or hear, and that contradicts what I'm being told divinely.
But if you think about it, Deb, isn't that the largest life lesson that anybody has to learn?
Mm-hmm.
So if we learned it all in our 27th year, what else are you working on for the rest of your life? It really kind of makes sense that we don't get that automatically.
Right. And have to be reminded of it constantly, so that more and more space doesn't go by where you forget that, right? That if you get reminded of it regularly, you go, oh, that's right. I don't let a year go by before I remember again. Then I am divine. And so, I know that it is repetitive at times, and that is the way that God talks to me. That's the way that God teaches, is because there has to be this integration process of understanding that there is this dance of going back and forth, an eternal dance of feeling separate or alone, but then you're not, and then you're just doing this dance all the time of waffling back and forth from the illusion into divine truth. And you're right, we don't get it overnight. And even when we do get the concept, we can forget it very easily as we are living life.
Right. And what an amazing time to practice that knowingness with
Mhm.
everything that's going on around with us.
Yeah, is to hold on even tighter
Right.
to what you know as divine truth and center yourself in that so that your waffling becomes less and less over time, or that you catch it. You say, oh, wait a minute, that thought is irrational. That thought I have is not real. And I need to just allow myself to go back into knowing what I know is true. And
Right.
Camille was just beautiful in watching that she was seeking this so much of the oneness, um, so that she obviously on some level knew that she was not going to be physically around much longer, and she was trying to understand her journey and who she was.
Yes. And I think it was actually almost unconscious that
Mm-hmm.
that was happening, because when you spoke to her person to person, she thought she was going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
She thought that this cancer was not going to be what was going to take her out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's beautiful that her spirit knew that she was needing to unravel
Mm-hmm.
this knowingness before she passed. And I know she got it, because at the time of her passing, she knew Divine Mother was there. She knew she was one with the divine. I'm so happy for her that it happened the way that it happened for her.
Me too. And that she was able to just let herself unfold into transitioning into love.
Right. Right.
It was so amazing. And this is what God's talking to us about, that it can never be the case that there's any separation at all. So the second part is, through your journey of life, you will have daily opportunities to understand our connection. Some of you will take the opportunity, and others will continue to live life believing only in themselves. And there's no wrong or right to that either.
That's everybody's option, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's their prerogative, that's their option, and it's all perfect. Whatever that chooses to be, that's all perfect.
Yeah. So we're all having a unique experience, which we all know, and there are, oh my gosh, moment after moment after moment to get us to awaken, to understand that everything that we see is not the totality of what really is happening. There is moments all day long where divine love is speaking to you, and you don't recognize that you're hearing the voice of love, of God. You think that you're hearing your own voice. And so we can really miss opportunities. And I think I've written a little bit about that. We can go through life and have experiences, like I'll just use myself today. My daughter is in a hospital waiting to give birth. Yes, waiting to give birth, and I'm not allowed at the hospital because of COVID. So so when a new baby comes home, it is like the breath of God that you lay your eyes upon, and you even smell the baby. A baby has a certain smell to it, right? Like the breath of God. And or you go to a wedding, and you do different things in life that give you an experience of really feeling profound love, and not realizing that we can feel those all day long by just going within. We're looking for an experience to have that when the experience is really all inside of us all the time, that we can access that all the time.
But Deb, there is such a learning phase to learn how to do that, to learn how to listen, to learn how to trust it, to learn how to follow through on what you're hearing. And not everybody wants to spend the time doing that, or they think, I can't do it, so therefore I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
Or that it needs to be in a certain way. They don't realize that they are even hearing, because they're looking for it to unfold in some other way that they think it should happen. And so it is a whole process, like you're saying, Ruth, of trusting and wanting to pay attention and be present to what's going on inside of you and what your thought process is, so that you can, well, and we talk about being still as a way, or meditating, to hear and to really connect inside yourself, and to see what you're feeling and what you're hearing inside. And then you realize that you're also hearing things on the outside all the time that reaffirms you in all different ways, your conscious and unconscious thoughts. So there is no wrong or right about who does this. It is a choice. And I think somebody had put on here, Gabby's on with us. And she said, it is a choice. It is a choice to awaken and to stay awake. I know for me, once I woke up, it was no longer a option to go back to sleep again. Not on purpose. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to know any more about it. I don't want to develop this relationship that I have inside myself with God as self. And so it is such a unique experience for each one of us. And so those of you that might be listening that have not had that happen yet, there's nothing wrong. I mean, I didn't wake up until I was 56. Right. And I woke up at the right time, at the time that it was for me. And other people have, been sort of awake as when they came into the world, and they always knew that there was something else. I knew that there was something else, but I was really driven by the outside world and my wounds, basically. And so what we're talking about is, over time, when you start to hear these things, like you said, Ruth, when you start to go inside, you start to understand the love that lives inside of you, that is the substance of you. It takes a journey to learn how to trust it.
Well, it really does, especially when other people in your world are saying, I don't get it. It doesn't exist. Are you sure you're seeing that? Could you not talk about that out loud? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's actually another part of it. I think that piece of feeling isolated, actually, where you are questioning yourself and seeking that validation, I almost think that's part of one of the rites of passage to really stepping into that knowingness that, yep, I've got this. I do trust this, and I've got this. I really haven't heard of anybody who's come through it with a troop. It just seems like there's always this piece of solitary isolation.
Yeah. I love that, the rite of passage. I love that you said that, because it's almost like you having to gain so much confidence in what you're knowing to be true, that you're no longer allowing other people to sway what you know to be true.
Right.
And that takes time to keep spending time. I believe this is how it worked for me, inside with God, with Jesus, of learning more, of letting the false self keep being stripped away and being taught who you are from a divine perspective. And so the more that you are developing the trust of that relationship and really taking in information, which is really kind of bizarre, that we have to be convinced that we are divine perfection, because we have believed that we're something other than that. It is bizarre, really, when you think about that. We have to strip everything away to find that we are everything that we wanted to be and more.
You know, the other thing I'm seeing, Deb, too, is for every person that I know, part of that spiritual growth was spirit coming to meet us halfway. Not only did we come to the table, but spirit, whether it's in the form of Divine Mother or the archangels or Christ or God, some spiritual being, and I'm getting goosebumps, some spiritual being met us halfway and taught and cared for and supported and nurtured. It's such an important piece of that. But what's important for us to be able to see that connection is for us to spend the time to go into relationship there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is. It's taking the time to do it, isn't it? It's all taking the time. And I know for myself that I had so much resistance within me wanting to pull me away from spending quiet time, from spending meditation time, away from me. Like there was this energy that just wanted to keep pushing me. No, I need to do something else, or I should be doing that, or I should be doing this. And it was constantly pulling me away from what I know I needed to do. And really not understanding that energy of it started to feel like a fight within myself. That's what I've experienced. Even when Jesus was dictating those books to me, I could feel a part of me that said, I don't want to sit here and take dictation. I want to go out and I want to swim. I want to play with my friends. I don't want to sit here and do that. And then there's this other part of me like, oh my God, give me more. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And it was so interesting to watch the difference inside of myself and feel an energetic pull in opposing directions.
That is interesting. I know for me, Deb, a huge piece of it was when I learned to meditate, that I knew that spending time every single morning in meditation was going to be critically important. And as I did that, Archangel Michael would come to me and teach me things. And then after a while, Archangel Raphael would show up and teach me things. And that time became so sacrosanct to me that I literally get up every morning at least 2 hours before everybody else in the house so I can have that time for me. Yeah, really setting aside that time to be in relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we're each going to have our own unique journey of how that happens. And so you're saying that, yes, I want more of this. And I wanted more of that, yet had this strange energy pulling me the other way. But yet I kept hanging in, and I kept meditating, and I kept being in relationship, and I was willing and open to receive what wanted to come through me. And I think that's what it is this willingness to keep doing, to keep trying.
Right. Deb, what do you think that pull was to pull you out? What was that?
Part of it was antsiness, anxiousness, okay? I said I have a little part of me, my younger part of me, I would say that I was probably ADD or something like that. And to sit still and be present was very difficult. I wanted to just go. And so I think it was more of an anxious type of feeling within myself, that, you know, I could say it was ego that said, I don't have time for this. I want to go play. I want to go do something else. But I think it was whatever it was like more of sitting present and sitting still in that kind of light. First of all, it was a lot. I know that when I was getting dictated to, I was almost falling asleep constantly because so much light was coming through that I was exhausted. I didn't know how to stand in that type of light for a long period of time. And of course, that's changed over as I got used to it. But yeah, I think it was probably some angst of sitting still and just being quiet rather than on the go all the time.
Interesting. You know, I think back on when I was just learning, I did not want anything to interrupt that time. I would get like internally angry if something started interfering with that time. Yeah.
Yeah. I even remember, you know, when it came time to type and work on my books, there's always this energy pulling me, no, go do this instead. And then I was not sitting and doing what I wanted to do, that I had to really focus myself and say, no, I don't know what all of this is, but this is what I want to do, and I'm going to sit at my desk and I am going to work on these books and stop letting this energy keep pulling me away. And it's been an ongoing experience for me. It has. I have to really get focused and discipline myself. Now, I meditate every morning, have no problems with that. But when it is left to, I can just sit here and I can work on my things. There is no time pushing me, you know, like a deadline or something. If I have a deadline, I'm going. But left to my own, okay, I'm just going to do this in peace, and I'm just going to enjoy what I'm doing. And getting centered and doing that has always been an issue for me. So whether I want to call that ADD or anxiety or whatever it is, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, Gabby is saying that she's struggling with that at the moment as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we could say, you know, it's ego distraction of like keeping you from doing something that you really love to do and want to do. We could call it all kinds of things, but I know that has been one of my struggles is using more discipline with myself and loving discipline, not being so frustrated with myself, because I had to learn that too. I used to get really frustrated. And these are all things that God and Jesus have worked on me with. And it allowed me to see my relationship with frustration and how I would treat myself and what is a much more loving way to go about spending that quiet time and being peaceful in it. It's an ongoing lesson for me.
Well, there's also the realization that every moment is an opportunity for other options. Mm-hmm. Every moment, every conversation is the opportunity to take a conversation this way or that way. Mm-hmm. Right? When you look at all of the opportunities we have in a given day, it is absolutely mind-boggling that any of us get anything done.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, I see things and it's like butterfly. I'm off. Okay, and oh, I like that, and this bling. Oh my goodness, I like that bling over there. I'm going over there, and so there's constant stimulation going on, yes, that keeps you from, and that's what happens too when we're not awake. We get so driven by our job, or, creating financial stability or doing things that we forget, do I even like what I'm doing? Do I even like the time that I'm spending right now and what I'm doing with my time? Is it fulfilling me? Do I feel purposeful? Instead of, being driven to do things that, or stay in jobs that you don't like, that don't fulfill you. Or really learning how to have a relationship with spirit so that no matter what you're doing, you can enjoy it. That's a whole nother thing. So God continues to say, there comes a point, however, and we just talked about, he talked about that the opportunities are there every single day to connect within or to live life believing only in themselves. There comes a point, however, that we shall meet, and that is upon death. Death is part of your life experience because that is the way for you to return home, to end the dream of dreams, transitioning back to the understanding of oneness that you have forgotten is actually pure joy.
We don't normally think about death as pure joy, do we?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, and this is what he's saying, into me you shall come eternally as one. And if you don't meet with me during your life and understand that there's a co-creation going on with self, it's really with yourself, that death gives you the opportunity to meet. It's ending the dream of dreams. So I think, gosh, I would much rather go through life co-creating in partnership with the source of self, of creation, than to not partner and be awake to that. I lived that way for 56 years. I know what it's like to not be aware of what is inside me, of who I am. And from my own self, I couldn't even imagine going further without that relationship.
No, I prefer to never be in that place where that relationship is not in play. Yeah. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it's an interesting way to think about death, that it's actually pure joy because you get to remember that you're just one and you're eternal and that you're so much more than you could ever imagine.
Terry Angel said something interesting, or maybe it was you, one of the two of you. She was talking about her chariot, that she's waiting to hear about a car coming into her physical realm. And one of you made the comment about her chariot awaits. And then Deb, you had the fascinating awareness of realizing that upon death, our chariot has shown up to take us home. And you said, wow, even cancer can be that chariot that takes you home.
Mm-hmm. And it just, like, my mind just went, whew, like, whoa, this is an expanded way to actually look at something that we would call a disease or illness that kills you is actually your chariot home, because it's time for you to come home for whatever reason that is. We don't know what time it is for each one of us to return home. And the chariot comes in whatever form that is going to be in. And And wouldn't that, it's such a perception shift. Isn't it? It's to perceive whatever that is that takes you home, whatever that vehicle is, whatever that it's your chariot home back to pure joy.
Jeanette Wesolowski was with me on a meditation a day on Monday, and Monday was actually the day that Camille passed. Jeanette did a meditation, and she always goes into light language with that. And I was listening to the light language, and I was getting this vision as she was doing it. And I heard to share what the vision was when she was finished. So I did, and I'll just share it with you quickly. But I was seeing her light language always just takes me right back to native Indian. And what I was seeing was like a pond or a lake at night, and a woman out on the pond, and huge moon, very, very dark and huge moon. And there was this canoe with a body in the canoe on the water. And I saw this woman. It was probably one of Jeanette's guides, I'm guessing. And the woman was raising up that spirit, that soul, to transition. And then I saw that there were more than one canoe with bodies in it. And I felt like one was Camille, right? Energetically, I felt like one was Camille. And I saw this woman helping to support those souls as they transitioned. And then I said, but what if one is transitioning too soon? Because Camille wasn't that old. Mm-hmm. And it felt to me like she was being called home too soon. And I was shown a corn stalk with different ears of corn, and each ear of corn representing a person. And I was told that different ears of corn ripen at different rates. And when it's ripe, it's time for it to leave the stalk. And then I was shown the planet and generations of babies and souls coming up, one generation after another, meaning that life will continue, that there will always be humans on the planet, but it is time for some to be moving on, and they will always come back. And then I was shown the circle of life and coming back into a soul, or coming back as a soul into a body after transitioning out. So it was really beautiful, but it was about the circle of life. I don't know why I was thinking of that right then, but we were talking about that transitioning and not over knowing why it's somebody's time when it's somebody's time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because most of the time you want to fight that. You don't want it to be that time. You don't want to let go of the physical. And so I know that for me, you still feel your feelings. You still feel sadness or whatever else you feel, grief. But how wonderful to actually expand your perspective and say, that's just the form of chariot that they have taking them home. And we may not always like that chariot. It can look pretty ugly at times, right? But it is, and we don't know why it is. It's just accepting that's what it is. And then remembering that returning home is actually pure joy.
Yeah, when my father was passing, 18 hours before he passed, he had a near-death experience. And we're watching him, and watching, if you've never been with somebody as they're dying, there's this point where you're just all sitting around watching the next breath come, right? And he was sleeping, and then there's no next breath, and you're just watching. And then he comes back and he says, I died. I just died. He said, I was walking down this dark hallway, and then these spirits showed up. My dad was not one to talk about spirits at all. So the fact that he was talking about this was amazing. And he said, and they were cheering for me to be there. He said, I wanted to stay. And then they told me I couldn't stay. And he says to me, why can't I stay? I want whatever I need to do to get back there, I want to do that. And the next 18 hours of the last 18 hours of his life, all he talked about was how to get back there. So yes, pure joy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a different perception from where you're standing. And then, of course, there's people that don't understand or have views about what's waiting for beyond, and that makes them more really scared to transition. So there's all these different things. So I'd like to go with what I'm taught inside and believe it's pure joy, because you experience pure joy even when you're not transitioned. You experience it inside yourself every time you spend with God. So imagine what it would be like to go home.
Well, and that's why we meditate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we do get to go home, and we do get to sit just in divine presence and divine love.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. And what we're all trying to work on is that we are in that presence. We are that presence. We are in that space every moment of the day, that it never changes. We just feel like we walked out of that space, or that some people will think God walked away, is hanging over there instead of here with me now. But it's our mind that drifts off and believes that we walked off someplace else, and we never left. Very interesting. Such an interesting journey. So the last part is everyone has the opportunity to understand oneness during their life experience. And when you allow yourself to accept it, accept that your oneness, your life feels so much more peaceful and joyful. There is no right or wrong. It is just your own preference to dive deep, to find me within or not. Either way, you will come to know me as yourself once again, and I wait with great joy upon your awakened presence. So amazing.
What a beautiful promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at that as part of God's covenant.
Right.
It's a promise. We never separated. We're never apart. You just believe that you are. And I'm waiting for you to regain your awakened, your awareness, to remember that again. And that brings great joy. It brings great joy to yourself. That presence is always there.
Right. The other thing it does, it gives you great perspective on everything else that's happening around you. And right now, that's a really nice blessing to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what a dance it is, isn't it? I'm getting also beautiful comments. Gabby said, Deb, you're making me cry. Beautiful. God is beautiful. This is what God does to me, makes me cry, makes me in awe of what I hear of the love is just so profound. To understand the depths of who you are, and that your presence is mandatory. If you want to really feel a joyful life, your presence is mandatory, because it takes away so much pressure. It doesn't mean that you don't feel, that you don't go through experiences, but it takes away so much pressure when you know that you are in loving hands all day long.
Exactly.
And that those hands are actually measuring every step that you take. They are taking that step with you as you, and learning how to trust that you're unfolding exactly the way that you're supposed to, that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with where you are. And to get that validation from inside of you is nothing like what you can get outside of you.
So for Gabby, even spending all day long connecting with the elementals, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's where you are. That's where you're supposed to be. That's where you're being guided to. And it's really easy to feel like, well, I got off track. Like I said, I feel many times a tug within me pulling me in opposite directions. And that makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. And you're never doing anything wrong. You can never be out of step with God, no matter what you think you're doing, even like things that we think are evil. That person is never out of step with God. They're just doing whatever they're doing, and we don't understand why they're doing what they are. But that person is spirit. It is God.
There is no off track.
There is no off track. No. And sometimes we go off on these little places, on these paths, because we need to expand more and learn something about ourselves. And that helps us do that. So there are no mistakes. No mistakes at all.
Well, I'm going to take that even one step further. The people in your life, there are no mistakes. That they're here to teach you.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can also look at people as they are the presence of God. Everything is. Creation is. What's outside in your environment is, it's all oneness. And so it's God's presence showing up to you in all these different forms to help you remember and to help you get stronger with the contrast of what you see, so that you keep understanding who you are and getting stronger in that belief system, so that you get to a point where you don't have to question those things as much as you used to. If you're looking for, being a perfect human being or something like that, it's something that is not attainable, because you're also not seeing your own perfection and who you are as spirit, having this virtual experience. And it is really taking in the fact that you're perfect now. You're not waiting to get perfect.
Right.
This is your experience. This is the journey that you wanted, with divine love helping you experience whatever you want. And it's funny because I had a conversation with God. I also like the Course in Miracles, so I do that with my friends. We're in a study group, and I came upon something that I read that made it seem like I needed to be in such devotion. This is the way I read it, that I needed to be in such devotion, like there was no room for anything else. And I thought, well, I've been there. I've been there to the point of saying, okay, God, just take me, because I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play in this life. Just take me now. I want to be with you. And then what I heard is, Deb, he told me, you have already done this. There is nothing wrong with where you are, your devotion right now. And he said, I don't want you to go anywhere. I want to help fulfill the dream that I put in your heart. I want you to see it come to fruition. I want to do this with you. And we don't realize that there's been a dream put in our heart, these passions, these things that we love, that we want to do, like you in Enlightened World, and whatever that is, whatever dream you have been given. And God wants to help you bring that to fruition, and not feel like you're doing it on your own, or that you're doing something wrong, and whatever you're doing takes away from the ability to succeed and make your dreams come true. But also I've learned that God understands you better than you understand yourself, and knows what makes you happy. Knows way more what makes you happy than you do yourself. Such a beautiful journey. Such a beautiful journey. I think Carol Ann's on here too. Oh.
She was sharing about her dad, when her dad.
Yeah, yeah. It is, thank you so much for everyone being here. We love having your comments and interacting with us, because this is all for you. This is all messages that come through for all of us. And we share that in so many different ways on Enlightened World Network, with all the different hosts we have, that everybody brings the message of love through in their own way. And it really is beautiful. And you are important to us. It is important that we have this community. We've all said this before, and everybody has said this, that we're all walking home together. We're helping each other go home together, to find love together, and we're all one. So,
and I do love our EWN community.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so do I. Well, I think we have discussed well what we've been given today. And is there anything, Ruth, that you want to talk about or mention before we leave?
Really, the only thing that's on my mind is the fact that there's a little baby girl waiting to come into the world, into loving arms, both physical and spiritual. So we just take a few minutes and just surround little Charlie with all the love in the world as she comes in. Can't wait to see her.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, so much. What a blessing. What a blessing. We're waiting on her. She's taking her time a little bit and coming out to greet us, but she'll be here soon enough. And thank you, Ruth, and thank you, everyone, for all the blessings that I've been getting too throughout the day. So in the meantime, we're going to say goodbye for now, knowing that we are one love, protected and held in divine order by our Creator. Go out this day in this awareness and allow God's peace and joy to occupy every thought. Lead with your heart and welcome everyone home, for all are loved. God bless you, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Love you all. Awesome.